In this lecture, we're going to create the login screen for our app. To do that, we're gonna duplicate the current home screen we designed in the previous lecture, and we just put it next to it. Actually, let me rename the name of each artboard so we don't get confused. Alright, so on our login screen we're going to select every element that we have and we're going to remove it. Next thing we're gonna do is use the rectangle tool to create a new rectangle exactly the same size of the artboard. We're going to remove the border, and then we're going to use this feature, which is the background blur. We're going to activate it here, and as you can see, this whole layer just creates a blur on top of the background image that we had. And by using these options down here, we're just gonna make it a bit heavier. As you can see, if I go down, it's almost not there at all. If I go all the way to 50, it creates a nice blur, which looks quite cool. Next, we're gonna create some text as the title of the screen. We're gonna change again to Lato, back to white, and increase a little bit the font size all the way to 40. And also we're gonna have a light weight. I'm gonna zoom a little bit. We're gonna put it all the way to the left side of the screen, and then using Shift and the right arrow key, we're gonna hit it for 2, 3, 4, 5 times, so that we have a 50 pixels exact margin from the left side of the screen. Now we're going to create the first field of our login form. So once again, we're going to duplicate this piece of text here, and all in capital letters. I'm gonna name it email address. Obviously we need to make some changes, probably even smaller, about 14 pixels. And let's bump up the weight to regular. And let's make sure that this is properly aligned with the text on top. One, two, three, four, 5. Okay. Also, we forgot to lock this layer here, the blur, and let's also rename it. And the status bar as well. We forgot to move it on top. Alright, so now we're gonna have an email address just below here. And we're gonna put down the opacity to about 70% so that we have some nice contrast here. And then we need a little line here just below the email address. To do that, we're going to select the line tool, and we're going to draw a line of 275 pixels so that we have 50 pixels on the left and 50 pixels on the right. Just the color is not right. Let's put it to white, and then let's play with the opacity and put it down to about 30%. Okay, so now we're going to select all these 3 elements here, and we're going to group them. Once again, Command G, and we have a new layer group here, which we're gonna call Field 1. We're gonna tidy up a little bit. Okay, so now we select this group, and we're just going to duplicate it. And maybe let's move it a little bit closer to the field on top. So we're going to rename this password. And then we're going to get rid of the email address here. And instead we're going to use some circles, which is like when you mask the password, you don't want to show it to the user. So to do that, we're going to use the ellipse tool, letter A. Let's zoom in a little bit, and we're going to create a perfect circle by using shift, by holding the shift key, and let's make it about 8 pixels diameter. As you can see up here, we're going to remove the border, and then we're going to use one of the coolest features in Adobe XD, which is the repeat grid, which is up here. We're going to select it, and then we're going to drag this little handle here towards the right side of the screen, and we're going to create about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 little circles here. And then when you hover with the mouse in the space between each circles, you're going to be able to decrease the space between them. Let's do it to about 6, 7 pixels, something like that. And let's see how it looks. Okay, some adjustments. We're gonna select this again and align it to the text on top. Also, let's play with the opacity all the way to 70, like the email above. And probably still we need to move it up a little bit. So now we just need to create our login button. To do that, we're going back to our home screen and simply copy and paste back into our login screen the sign up now button, which will transform a little bit. So we're going to make it a bit smaller, about 100 pixels, and we're going to center the text back here and just use login as the main text. We're going to drag this up, something like this, maybe a little more. Okay, now we need the forgot password link. So we're gonna select the text tool, and we need to change the font again down to about 13 pixels. We're gonna make it white, and then we're going to play with opacity to make it a little bit less prominent. About 70% could work, and we try to align it on top with the line on top, and on the left side with the center of the login button. Okay, so now we're gonna add at the bottom of the screen a little link to sign up for those users who don't have an account. So with the rectangle tool, we're going to create a rectangle here at the bottom, about 40 pixels, maybe a bit bigger. We're going to remove the border and make it a dark gray, something like this, and align it all the way at the bottom. And then we're gonna play with the opacity and tune it down to about 30%. And now we're just going to copy this piece of text here and paste it and put it on top. We're going to raise the opacity all the way to 100% just to make it more visible, and we're going to edit the text. And we're going to center it in the very middle. Alright, so now we need to create a little back icon, which is an arrow that we're going to place on top of the screen here for users to be able to go back to the home screen. So once again, we're going to use the rectangle tool, and actually we're just gonna zoom in to see clearly what we're doing. So we create a sort of a rectangle about this size. We remove the border and we round up the corners, something like this. So once we have that, we're going to rotate it by holding the shift key, and we're rotating it by 45 degrees, as you can see here on the right panel. Then we're going to duplicate this, and again using the shift key we're going to rotate it again we're going to move it all the way down here so that when it snaps and it creates a nice curve like this, and then we're going to select again on this shape and we're going to duplicate it again. We're going to move it at the center, rotate it again by 90 degrees, and then join this shape all together with the other ones. And we're probably going to make this a bit longer so that it looks more like an arrow. Once this is done, we're just going to select all the 3 layers we created, and we're going to hit this button, which is the add function, which basically merges all those shapes and creates one unique shape that you can reuse in your design. And we're going to move it all the way to the top, about 20 pixels from the left border. Now let's have a look at our layers panel here. We probably need to tidy up a little bit because it looks a bit messy. So the status bar on top, login text. We're going to rename the layer for the arrow. This goes at the bottom. We're going to group it. And then we have the 2 fields, field 1 and rename field 2. And we're going to move them below the login title. And then the button here. Okay, that looks much better. I guess we should move down the login title a little bit so that it's closer to the other fields, and probably just select everything and move a little bit everything to the bottom so that it's better vertically centered. And that's about it. Here's our login screen, and I guess I'll see you on the next lecture.